So this is the way I do card shows, but if you're doing card shows right, you actually want to plan it in advance. So if I'm going to a card show, right, number one, right, if I've got vintage cards and they're not gradable, 8, 9s, or 10s, would you suggest I send them in bulk shipment for consignment, or should I send them portioned out by sports during certain times of the year? Cards from the 70s and the 90s. So welcome to Beyond the Game, episode number 38, where in this podcast, I'm going to be talking and teaching someone how and what they should do going into retirement. And also, I'm going to reveal a card I bought a few days ago that is going to blow your mind. It's a one-of-one of a baseball player, and I got it extremely cheap. I'm going to share with you how I did it. But let's get right into it. And I have a bunch of questions here. First, got some other things to go over, and also I'm going to explain to you why my face is shaved. And half of you guys are going to think I'm absolutely insane why I shave my face, and the other half are going to think, oh, that's kind of smart. I'll explain in just a bit. But let's get into it. So Mark says, I'm just starting out in cards after retirement. I found that grading works if you want traffic by your table. My question is, I began making current team sets of new commons to aid in getting traffic. Is this a good idea? Okay. So I'm assuming when you say get traffic to your table, you're referring to going to card shows. So if you're looking to make serious money, so based on my previous experience and just talking to a bunch of people, if you're going to retirement, you're probably using sports cards to develop an income stream, and developing team sets is just an inefficient way to do it, right? If you want to make money in retirement, you want to develop an income stream that's predictable and consistent. It's going to make you at least a few $1,000s a month, so you have something to do in retirement, and something that's fun, and something that's going to make you money. And the way to do that is through grading. So this is the way I do card shows. When I don't go to as many anymore, but if you're doing card shows right, you actually want to plan it in advance. So like, let's take this for example. So right now while I'm speaking, it's December. And the next big card show on the top of my mind is February. In February at some point is the Burbank Card Show, which is actually in Anaheim, California. So Burbank Card Show. So I say to myself, okay, if I'm going to set up at a table, I want stuff at my table that is hot, right? Stuff that people are going to want. And going to card shows and having a good table has a compounding effect, right? So like, if this is going to be a terrible drawing, right? So like, if this is a card show, and this is a table, this is a table, this is a table, and then going down the other row, this is also a table, this is also a table, this is also a table. Like, if these little red dots are people, so yeah, I got some people here, you got some people here, and you got some people here, and you got some people walking in the middle. But let's say this table is like, boop, 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 boop. There's like a bunch of people standing around it, right? And what happens is this person who owns this table probably has an idea of what cards he should bring to the card show. And what happens is all these other people are like, whoa, what is going on over here? Let's go take a look. So by having more people around your booth, it actually kind of has like a compounding effect, because people are like, oh, wow, if there's 10 people hovered around there, something must be good. Let me go over there. So having the right cards at your booth is really, really, really valuable. But like going back to my first point, so how do you do that? So number one, so if I'm going to a card show, right, number one, right, location of the booth is key. So you don't want to be back in the corner. You want to be somewhere in the middle or somewhere by the doors, like the doors to get into the card show. The worst spot to be is like in the back, all the way in the back right or the back left, because you're just going to get the least amount of traffic. It's probably just common sense. And then number two, right, you want what's hot, right? I'll go over that in a second. And number three, right, you want to be fairly priced. So these two, guess what? These two kind of go together. All right, let me explain. So going back to that example, right, we have in February, we have the Burbank Card Show. So right now is December, and if I'm buying cards to send a PSA, I know that grading times, right, grading times are about, it's December, I send cards in now, 45 days, maybe, something like that. That's what I've been seeing as of late. And so I want to be buying what's hot. So I want to be buying baseball, right? Buy baseball. Because guess what is hot in February? Baseball, right? Spring training's basically starting, or it's around the corner. And so a good example of this. So let me give you a good example. Actually, I could just go to my eBay. So I'll give you a great example. I'm not going to the card show, but if we look here, I'm going to have to blur out my credit card information, my address here. But so this is a card of Paul Skeens, right? So Paul Skeens, that's not Paul Skeens, Bowman Chrome 2023. So you saw, right? I just showed you, right? I paid $400 for it, right? And if we look at market movers here, so if we go to market movers and we go to Paul Skeens 2023 Bowman Chrome Auto. That's not how to spell Bowman Chrome. There we go. So this is the card I bought, and this is the card as a 10. So if we compare these, right, you can see here that dark blue line, that's what this card sells for now, about like $425. And a PSA 10 is about $1,200. Now, if we look closer at a PSA 10 here, for example, so let me reset this and then just look at this. So this is what I like to do, right? So, right, Paul Skeens was super high, came down, and it started to level off a little bit at around like $1,100 or $1,200. So there's no guarantees, obviously, but right now, I paid $400 for this card, and a PSA 10 is about $1,100 to $1,200, right? Something in that range. And come February, hopefully, this card will go up, right? 10 to 20%. That's the hope, right? There's no guarantees. So hopefully now a PSA 10 is, hopefully like $1,400 to $1,500. Hopefully. No guarantees, right? And what's great about this is I paid $400 for this card, and even if it gets a 9, because it hopefully goes up 10 to 20%, I will hopefully make a little bit of money on it. Obviously, like I said, no guarantees here. But, so let's pretend, right, I'm at the card show, and this card of Paul Skeens is now worth, let's pretend, $1,500. Now, what does everybody do? Everyone's like, oh, man, Paul Skeens is hot. I'm going to price this card. I'm going to give it a price tag. I'm going to try to get someone. Right? I'm going to price this at $1,700. People aren't dumb. If someone's spending $1,500 for a card, they probably know how to look at comps. Instead, what you should do is price this card. So if it's worth $1,500 today, price it at $1,450. One, you're gonna by pricing your cards fair. Number one, you're gonna sell them faster, right? And you're just gonna sell more inventory, which means now you have more money to go and reinvest. Number two, you also create a crowd of traffic at your booth. And number three, most importantly, you build connections, right? So people try to get every last penny, but if you're doing cards right, you don't really need to do that. And you get to get the benefit of all these things. And this example that I did earlier, now you become this guy with the crowded booth that everyone wants to do deals with, because you have hot cards like Paul Skeens, Bowman Chrome PSA 10s, and you're actually the only one that's fairly priced, right? This is what people do, but for some reason, even students of mine, they still overprice their cards. You don't need to overprice your cards, because if you're doing it right, it should go up 10 to 20%, or at the worst, not go down, right? And there's enough money in buying a card for $400 and getting it graded, and now a 10's worth $1,100 or $1,200, right? You don't need to nickel and dime, because if you don't nickel and dime, you get all these benefits, right? You sell faster, you get more people interested, and you're able to build connections, because guess what? People want to do business with people who are fair. Being a good person actually makes you more money in the long run, believe it or not, all right? So that's a long answer to your question there, Mark. Hopefully you understand now how to do card shows in retirement, right? All you're essentially doing is timing it up. So like look into the future, what card shows you're going to be going to, and buy these cards now, so when you get them, you can be that guy with fairly priced cards and the hot cards at the right time. Woo, that was a good one. So Denzel, how do you balance purchases for your PC? If you guys don't know what PC means, that means personal collection. That just means cards you're buying you don't really plan on selling. Versus flipping. What is your recent and coolest pickup for your PC? Okay, so my advice, so like, right, I'm out here on the internet because I'm trying to help people make as much money as possible. And until you have an excess amount of cash where you don't know what to do with it, you could put that into your PC. Like PC to me, honestly, I know people may not like me saying this, but PC to me just means long-term investment. Like anyone who's like for example, my PC is 1933 Gaudi Babe Ruths. I like them as a card, but they're my PC just because I think they're really undervalued and I just like them. So like you shouldn't be PCing like young modern guys because most of them aren't going to live up to expectation, right? It's not going to be fun to have a PC of a guy and you were into these cards for $500 each and now they're worth $100 each, right? You're not going to want to look at those cards on your shelf, right? So you should really be PCing like Hall of Famers or vintage guys or like older guys, stuff like that. And honestly, I wouldn't even have a PC until you have at least like 50 grand in extra cash just laying around that you have nothing to do with. Then dump like 10 or 20 or 30 grand into a PC. Like I didn't even think about a PC until I had at all times an extra $100,000 in liquid cash in my bank account. And I was like, well, it's just sitting here and like, honestly, I can't even buy enough cards to keep up with the profit I'm making. So I might as well dump it into 1933 Gaudi Babe Ruths because that's what I like. So honestly, to me, you shouldn't have a PC until you get really good at flipping. You can maintain that. You can make a consistent $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month and piece off some of your extra money into a PC. That's my personal advice, but I know everyone's different, right? Some people get into cards for fun. Some people get into it for money, right? You're talking to someone that first got into sports cards. When my buddy Dylan introduced it to me, it was to make money. It was like to pay for college. So like that's my viewpoint on sports cards. I treat it as a business, right? And you probably see I get a lot of hate because of it. And then what is the most recent and coolest pickup for your PC? So, oh man, I haven't picked anything. I think it was like earlier in the year. I think what I picked up was this. So this isn't going to be the exact card here, but a 1933 Gaudi Ruth PSA 4. It was the greenback. So it was, ooh, where are you? So it was this one, but graded a 4. Okay. Actually, let's see what I kind of traded into it. I think I'm into it for like 15 grand or something like that, or 20 grand. I kind of forget. I can't spell. 1933 Gaudi Ruth PSA 4. So it was not a 4.5. It was this one that you see, right, number 181. But so is this one. This is the one. There's no sales on it. What? That's crazy. But there's probably sales on a 4.5. I don't know. Sales aren't popping up. It's strange. But that's the card, but graded a 4. That's the most recent pick. But I think it was like earlier in the year, like 10, 11 months ago, something like that. Next question. Oh, same person. When sports card flipping, should we register as a business? Is this necessary for applying for a sales tax certificate? So 2 questions there. So should you register as a business? If you're making profits, yes, because honestly, people get like so confused on like what it means when you register something as a business. All you're doing is you're telling the state, hey, I have this new business and it's called Eric Michael LLC. And what you do is you then get a business credit card and you get a business bank account. And so all your purchases and your sales and all your expenses go into these 2 things so you can actually keep it organized, right? Because if you mix it with your personal stuff, it gets messy. And you can, right now, because everything's organized, if you're at a card show and you go out to dinner or whatever, you can write stuff off as business expenses so you're paying less taxes, right? I'm not a tax expert by any stretch of the imagination, so whatever I'm saying, keep that in mind. But, there's all sorts of things you could do once you own a small business, all sorts of little loopholes and things you can do, like investing in real estate and stuff that will let you pay less taxes as a net. So that's the reason you get into a business. But unless you're making money, I probably wouldn't say it's probably a waste of your time. That's what I would say. But once again, go talk to your accountant. And is this necessary for applying for a sales tax certificate? So for those of you guys who don't know, so like a sales tax certificate, what that is essentially you upload it to your, so if you're in New Jersey, let's say, or New York or Florida or wherever, and let's say you're in Florida, and what you could do is you could say to the state, hey, I'm buying stuff online as a reseller to make money, and what they'll do is they'll wipe the sales tax, and you pay those taxes at the end of the year. So to my knowledge, you don't need an LLC to do this, I think you don't. But basically what that looks like, so like if you're in New Jersey, for example, right, let's say you're in New Jersey, and let's say you pay, $100 for a card. Well, there's also going to be sales tax of like, I don't know what it is. What is it, like 6% or something? So you're going to have to pay an extra $6. So you're actually paying $106 because you have to pay sales tax. But if you get a sales tax certificate, what eBay does, this sales tax, you do not have to pay anymore. So you're only paying $100, and you pay your taxes at the end of the year. That's, to my knowledge, that's essentially how it works. And it saves you a lot of money because, right, you can do all sorts of things to write off your taxes at the end of the year. But when you're buying a card on eBay and you just have to flat out pay an extra 6%, right, that's literally 6% you're taking away from your profit margins. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense and you guys understand what that is. But once again, I am not a tax expert by any stretch. So go talk to your accountant about that stuff. Alex, how much of being a sports card trader, seller involves being involved with the sports scene, like watching games, checking stats, doing own research? None of it. If you want me to be honest with you, I have students in our program that barely watch sports. And honestly, even me, like right now, I watch NFL, but I'm hit or miss with like hockey and baseball just because I simply don't have the time, and basketball. And if you just understand, like fundamentally, right, you just need to understand a few things. So like if you understand, right, what, okay, wait, let me go backwards, right? So like, right, if you're doing, keep this in mind, Alex, right? If you're doing things right, essentially what you're doing, this is like the 3-step process, right? You buy cards in off season, right? Number 2, you grade these cards. Number 3, you get cards back when they're hot. So like when you buy them here and they go here, the hope is, right, they went up like 20% to 30%, something like that. Obviously it doesn't always happen. If you're doing sports cards, right, that's like the simplest way to make a few $1,000s a month. And like, to be honest with you, you don't really need to know that much about sports to do this, right? Like, just to give you an example, like let's take football, for example. So like, for example, let's pretend it's right now. So like, to make this work, you can literally make a few $1,000s a month just by buying a few guys like Jackson Holiday, and just that's not how to spell that. Like Jackson Holiday, Ellie, hopefully I'm spelling that right, De La Cruz, like Marcelo Meyer, Otani, right? And like name another few. So like you gotta know that much about sports. You can just literally research who are the top young, hot MLB players. And some of these players will go up in value as you get closer to the season. Some of them won't, but if you buy them at their floor in November and December, they're probably not gonna go down. And at this point, right, you just need to understand the fundamentals of sports cards, which has nothing to do with sports, right? You need to understand, like, right, what is liquid, right? So for baseball, it's like Bowman Chrome, Topps Chrome, like what are good cards. And then also understand, like, how to evaluate condition. Obviously, that's important. And that's really it. And then understand margins, right? You don't want to buy a card that's $100 and a PSA 10 is $150. You can't make any money doing that. So if you understand these three things and you literally just pick 5 players, you could do pretty well. Obviously, the more you know about sports, it'll make it a little bit easier because you can be a little sneaky and buy guys when they're injured and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it makes it a little bit easier. And most of the students that join our program, happen to be into sports because if you like making money with sports cards, you're probably into sports, but it doesn't fucking matter, to be honest. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. John, is the Japanese trading cards now recognized as major cards along our cards? For example, the Otani, Sasaki, Yamamoto cards are pretty cheap as of now. If and when do you think they will sell like our cards? So what he's referring to, I forget what the name of this. Who's the new guy? Is it Sasaki? Is it this guy? Hold on. I've never bought a Japanese card before, so I think this is what you're... didn't he have some 2021? Are these Japanese cards? I'm actually not. No, there's something else. Doesn't Sasaki have 2021 something? I think I was looking. I could be totally wrong here. Oh, BBM. Okay, so these are, to my knowledge, Japanese cards. And from what I've seen, the little I know about it, they're just as liquid as the American cards, to be honest. They sell for less, but in terms of liquidity, they're just as liquid because people are always going to want the first Bowman Chrome. That's just how it's going to go. But to my knowledge, they're just as liquid. I don't think they'll ever sell for what American cards do unless the Japanese market, which is pretty big with cards, gets as big as the American market, which will, the American market, we've been buying and selling sports cards for, there's been cards in America for 100 years. So I don't think they'll ever get there, but it could happen, but it'll never, those cards will never sell for the same amount. But in terms of liquidity and how easy they are to sell, they're just as easy to sell as anything else, to be honest, from what I've seen. This is just what I've seen. Let's see. Dan says, if I've got vintage cards and they're not gradable, 8, 9s, or 10s, would you suggest I send them in bulk shipment for consignment, or should I send them portioned out by sports during certain times of the year? The cards are from the 70s and the 90s. So this is the most common question, right? So if you have cards from the 1970s to the 1990s, these cards are, for the most part, worthless. All right? But what you could do, the best way I've seen to move, the only way any of your cards can be worth anything, if you have a star player. So if you have a star player, and also this card is in perfect condition and it grades a PSA 10, then you might have something if this is the case. But I doubt any of you guys have that because those cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s were extremely hard to grade. So good luck. But what you could do, because people still collect sports cards. I know I'm running around here saying that, turn this thing into a business, but there's a lot of people that just plainly like to collect sports cards. So what I would do is, step number 1, I would piece them out by either year or team. Okay, so and this is a lot of work for a little bit of money. So if you're broke, this is probably for you. If you're not broke, I wouldn't do this. But piece out by year or team, right? One of the two. And then put them in lots. And then each lot, so let's pretend, all right, example, you have New York Mets lot from cards from the 1970s to the 1990s. Put the stars in the front and then go and post it on eBay for anywhere between $25 to $100, and then someone will buy it. Just kind of look at what other people are doing, similar things, and that's a lot of work for not a lot of money, but that's the best way I've seen to move these worthless cards. But if you have a lot of it, it could add up to a few $100s. But yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. But that's the best I got for you. If you got cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but honestly, like, what I would say is if you need to put in, like, if you think it's worth it to spend hours and hours to make like $25 or $30, you're probably broke. And I wouldn't even get into sports cards. I would keep working at your job, try to get a promotion, and stop spending so much money. Honestly, that's the best answer I got for you there. So if this is what you need to do, what I'm showing you here, you shouldn't be watching this video and wasting your time watching me on the internet. So that's my that's my piece of life advice. So some other cool things. Oh yeah, I promised you guys I was gonna show you what I bought. So check this out. Let's continue here. Don't allow. So check this out. It's kind of a shitty picture here, but I bought a 2023 Bowman Chrome Drew Jones orange autograph and a 2023 Sapphire, however pronounce that, 1/1. I want to explain to you guys this purchase and like what went down. So I bought a 2023 Bowman Chrome. Nope, that's not how to spell it. If you guys don't know who Drew Jones is, he's the son of Andrew Jones, the Hall of Fame. Is he in the Hall of Fame from the Braves, the center fielder? I'm not sure if he's in the Hall of Fame. But Drew Jones, and I bought a orange 9.5 auto of this, and I bought a 1/1. Oh man, I'm terrible at spelling. These colors are not indicative of the cards I bought, but this is what I bought. Okay, and how much did I pay? Well, I paid, oh, what was it? I think $2,700 was the exact number. All right, paid $2,700 for these cards. Let's go through it, and I'm going to explain to you why I paid this and why I think I got a good deal. So if we go to Drew Jones, right? If you look at Drew Jones, and we try to find the comps of the card, the orange, right? So Drew Jones, Bowman Chrome, orange, autograph, right? So there's a 9.5 that sold for $4,600 a year ago. He was way hotter then, so it's kind of useless. But there's no recent sales. All right, there's no recent sales of any oranges. Okay, but if we go down a step farther to golds are numbered to 50. Are there any recent sales of golds? A PSA 9 did $558 in July of 24. So like these were the sales. So PSA 9 gold July 2024 did, what was it, like 560, something like that, right? 560. And then what I saw, like what really sold me on buying this. So like a blue PSA 10 and a blue 9.5. So a blue PSA 10 in May. I will do the blue 9.5. So the blue 9.5. Blue 9.5 also did 560 and this is like July of 2024. So these were like the sales I saw of this right, of the orange Bowman Chrome when I was trying to evaluate how much it was worth. So that's not much to work with, right? So what I did then is I was like, okay, well, let's look at Drew Jones. Let's look at one of his base cards from then to now to see if it's went up or down. Man, I'm just typing on this thing. It's either I stink or it just sucks in general. So this is Drew Jones. And if we look here, so if we go back to, let's go back a little bit longer. So if we go back to July, this card, oh, that's May. So if we go back to July, this card, his base PSA 10 was like $15, $16, $18, $20 in that range. And today, it's worth just about the same. Hasn't went up or down, right? So Drew Jones, what I determined was the value is the same since July, right? Now, Generally speaking, with Bowman Chrome, this is like, I'm about to get fancy on you guys. With Bowman Chrome, a orange is worth double a gold, and no, excuse me. Yeah, orange is worth about double gold, and gold's worth about double blue. Just like generally speaking, maybe a little bit more. So what I said to myself is like, okay, if a PSA 9 gold is 560, that would mean a PSA 9 orange would be worth about double that. So what's that, like 1,100, something like that? Something like that, right? So if a PSA 9 orange is 1,100, I would say a 9.5. So like an orange 9.5 would be, call it like about $1,600. And a PSA 10 would be like 2,200 to 2,400. But this is how I came up with the value for the orange, okay? So orange to me was worth about $1,600. That's kind of like how I came up with it. And also what I'm looking at is I'm like, okay, like Drew Jones's value used to be worth more and it's fallen. And he also had a pretty good year last year. I think it has a high chance of going up in value. At the worst, it's not going to go down, okay? So that's how I got to that value. Then the 1 of 1. So that's Sapphire 1 of 1. Honestly, I didn't even know that card existed before this. But what I did to do that, so check this out. So if we go, so let me just skip right to it. So if we go, and I don't know if this sale is going to be on, I don't know if it's going to be on here. Let's see. 2023. Bowman Chrome. Man, I'm just, spelling here is just a nightmare. Bowman Chrome. Sapphire 1 of 1. So what I did is, no. Sapphire 1 of 1. Nope, that's not how to spell it. Sapphire 1 of 1. So it's not going to pop up on here. So Paul Skeens, the same card as you can see right there, did 14,000. And where was the guy? I found a few comps. Junior Caminero. Okay, this is a good example. So Junior Caminero, his 1 of 1 did $3,000. Paul Skeens did 14,000. And this isn't the sale I was going to use, but I'll just. Oh yeah, this is the sale use. So Rainer Arias, right there. So check this out. This is cool. Or at least I think it's cool. So right now, right, what I'm about to do is I want to find out what the 1 of 1 non-autograph is worth, because I have no idea, right? Who the hell knows? But what I did, there's no comps of it, obviously, but a Rainer Arias 1 of 1 did $1,500, right? $1,500, and that was like a month ago in November. That's right here. So Rainer Arias did $1,500. Now, what I want to do is I want to look, okay, how much more or less does he sell than Drew Jones? So Arias, Sapphire, and let's see if there's any. So his raw Sapphires in November when this sold were like $2 and $1 and $6 and $7, and it's kind of all over the place, right? So his regular Sapphires do about like, I don't know, like $2 to $8 in that range. Now, I want to see what Drew Jones's do, right? So if we hop over to Mr. Drew, oh man, terrible. Still terrible. If we hop over to Drew Jones, we can see it is clear that his do like a little bit more. Kind of the same, but a little bit more. It's a little bit more of like that like $8 range, $15 range. So like Drew Jones, okay. Drew Jones Sapphires do about like $7 to $14. So he's worth more than Arias, right? So if Arias does $1,500, I was like, okay, Drew Jones's, it's got to be like at least 1,800 to 2,000. So that's kind of how I got to this value, right? I was like, okay, this should be worth like 1,800 to 2,000. Okay. So the bottom line is, when I was evaluating these cards, right, I ended up saying to myself, okay, the orange is about 1,600. The 1 of 1 is about like 1,800 to 2,000. So to me, these cards are worth, call it conservatively, I don't know, $3,400, right? And I was fortunate, or if you go back here, I paid $2,700, right? So I got a pretty good deal. And also, I kind of know, so like Drew Jones, because of the name, he has a decent market. So this 1 of 1, you don't know what a 1 of 1 could sell for. I'm into it good, but I could sell for $4,000, $3,000, maybe not, maybe, but I think there's a good chance I could hit someone over the head with it because he just has a big market. Right? There's a lot of people that like the Braves, a lot of people that like Andrew Jones, a lot of people that just like that name. So, interesting buy. But yeah, pretty cool. Some other things, I guess, in my life, for those that are interested. So we had a terrible review from a student. I'm not going to say any names, but it was terrible. And this is someone that I think he bought like a few cards and then just they got 9s and he did nothing after that and said the process doesn't work. And I said to him, I was like, man, you bought like 4 cards. They got 9s. You lost like $20, $30. What do you mean it doesn't work? I've been doing it for 10 years. And he's like going crazy, like this is a scam, yada, yada. And Jeff Bezos has a great quote. Okay, this is a great quote. This is such a good quote. I'm going to write it down. This is like one of the greatest quotes. This is so good. I want to get it tattooed on me. And I'm not saying this guy is poor, but the poor stay poor because they think every opportunity is a scam. These are the key words here. It's so true. Like, the people that are skeptical just never get anywhere in life. And what's crazy about, like, an opportunity, like sports cards or crypto or whatever, is something is only an opportunity when no one else sees it as an opportunity. Like, Bitcoin is not an opportunity anymore, right? Because everyone's in on it. Something is an opportunity before everyone sees it as an opportunity. And this is such a great quote, because I'm sure when Jeff Bezos was, starting Amazon, everyone was calling him a fucking idiot. Like, who's ever going to buy stuff on the internet? There's malls, people like going shopping, and now we buy everything on Amazon, right? And I'm sure he got called a scam too many times to count, right? And it's crazy because this quote is just so true. Like, it's just so true. Like, if you think everything's a scam, you'll never get anywhere, right? Because you can't invest in yourself because you're just so cautious and skeptical of everything. So I think that's interesting. Went over the Drew Jones stuff. And second to last thing, so this is just an interesting thing I do. So I'm someone, as you guys know, I've been able to make a lot of money in my life, and I'm super grateful and fortunate for it. And I truly do believe that the best way to use money is to elevate others. So, like, a great example is we had our creative director who like runs all of our organic content. He was in town. He's from Houston, Texas, and it was actually hilarious because he's like super Southern, and we brought him to like a hockey game, and I don't even know if he knew what hockey was before we brought him. But it's super cool because, like, we were able to take him to a suite, and I'm so blessed where, we could buy like 5 or 6 tickets, spend $1,000 something, and it doesn't even bother us. And I just think that is like the best way to use your money. Like, that's why you get into sports cards or, get into any business, because once you make an excess amount of money, it's like, okay, like, how do I enjoy life? At a certain point, the next dollar, it doesn't mean that much, right? Because there's law of diminishing returns. Then every dollar you make, there's just the next one means less and less. it's like, how do I use these dollars now to like elevate others? And I think it's a pretty cool thing. But last thing I'll go over. So this is going to get some of you guys are about to think I'm weird. Some of you guys are going to think I'm a genius, and every way in between. So my face is shaved. Kavi, you ready for this? Kavi, who runs a lot of our content, is behind me. He didn't want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. So my face is shaved. Why? Why is my face shaved, and why do I look like a 18-year-old for the first time in years? I haven't shaved my face in like 3 or 4 years. So I talk about my dating life here and there, and about maybe like 5 or 6 months ago, I made the determination. I was like, oh, you know what? I eventually do want a girlfriend and kids. And then I've been like in the dating world. I'm not just saying this to be cocky. I do pretty well, like probably above average. I'm not Dan Bilzerian, but I do pretty decent. But I looked back at my 20s and I was like, you know what? Like I've been with a lot of girls. I've been very blessed to meet all sorts of amazing women, but there's no one I would have actually dated. Like there was one, but she was too religious and it didn't work. So I was like, I've been single since like 18 or 19. I'm 27 now. And I have not met one girl that I would have dated. So what that tells me is like, okay, like obviously there's amazing women out there, and it's like I'm not that picky. So I am just not a good enough person to attract the type of woman I want. And I'm sure I could have. I flaunted my money, but I don't like to do that. So I really started to, in my spare time, like at night and stuff, like after work, I started to like invest in dating and look into it. How do I become better at dating and attract a higher quality female? And especially nowadays, for you older guys that are maybe watching this, Hinge and Tinder and these online apps are, in my opinion, really the way to go, because I don't want to go out and get drunk to meet a girl. And also the type of girl I want to meet probably doesn't go to a bar, and I don't have much time to go to yoga or run clubs, which is what people do. And I don't like running either. I like to play tennis and sports, which is probably not the place to meet girls. So right, I've been on this journey, and I've gotten better and better and better at dating. And then I ran into this course. I saw an ad. I booked a call with the guy, just like you see my ads, right? I got targeted with a dating ad. Oh, whoops. Spilled a little bit. And I bought this guy's course. Or I didn't buy the course. So I booked a call, and I was watching a video of his before the call, and I was like, wow, this really resonates. And so I got on a call with the guy. I was like, I texted him. I was like, hey, man, I'm listening to buy. So I spent $5,000 on the spot for this dating program. And just mind-boggling. So it is so detailed and so just makes so much sense. I'm became kind of friends with the owner, and I help him with his business, and he helps me with dating. And like there is just like endless videos and like testing the types of pictures you need to take and prompts and blah 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 blah. And I said to him, actually, I thought it was kind of funny when I got on a Zoom call with him. I was like, you either gotta be a genius or a sex addict, and he's like, I'm both. But I'm going to end this podcast with this, and I want your guys' opinion. So, and when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about like online dating specifically, right? So this is like a huge realization I made, and it's kind of similar to business. So when you go online, right, and you present yourself, right, and your goal is to get a female, and you put pictures on Hinge, what most guys do is they try to present how good they look, right? They'll put out there like, hey, like, this is a picture of me at the gym or a picture of me out with friends, and, I look good. Now, basically what he says is if you go back 200 years to like more tribal times, right, when we lived in like, not like we do now, right, the chief of a tribe would have 4, 5, 6 wives. Why? Because women are very survival based, right? So a woman finds the chief of the tribe attractive because he has a lot of resources, and they know if they have kids with that chief, that their kids have a high chance of surviving, right? You ever been with a girl and like they go to the bathroom together, right? They do that because they don't feel too safe, right? They're always on guard. Females, as opposed to men, when we go out on the street, right, we don't think like, someone's going to jump me. Like, not really, right? And like, imagine you at the bar with your friends and you said to him like, hey, want to come to the bathroom with me, right? He'd punch you in the face, right? That's what I would do if my friend said that to me. So women are very survival based, right? And these men on these apps try to present looks when you should be trying to present value. And long story short, he has a whole sequence of pictures you're supposed to take. And basically a lot of the pictures are you in a blazer, like clean cut, And he said to him, he said to me, like, you have to shave your face for these pictures. I was like, there's no way girls like a beard, not a beard over a beard. I was like, that's impossible. I said this to him like 5 times. He's like, no, listen, I've tested it with over thousands of guys almost every single time. No beard wins. And I was like, why? Like, I don't get it. Like, why would no beard win? If you ask any female or any man, even myself, I think I look better with a beard, right? If you ask anybody. And he's like, that's what you think. And that's what women will tell you. But if you want to go after like the 8s and the 9s and not really like the mid-level girls, a lot of them want someone that's successful. And if you think about the most successful people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, people that are corporate, clean cut, even though that's obviously not me, that's just the image I'm trying to present, they're clean cut. I was like, that kind of makes sense. Even though I still think I look a little funny without a beard, I gave it a rip. I took the day off from work yesterday. I hired a photographer, and we'll see how it goes. Because I truly do think like everything he said made so much sense. It's kind of like in business, right? If you guys are like, have ever heard like Alex Hormozy talk or like Jeff Bezos, right? There's no value in being the second cheapest person, right? Generally speaking, business, you don't want to get to a price war, right? You don't want to try to be the cheapest because someone's just going to price you out. Walmart's always going to be able to be cheaper than you. So you want to give more value and charge more money. So it's kind of the same concept with women. It's like you don't want to get into a battle of looks because like someone like myself, like I'm okay looking, but I'm not no model, right? So you want to get into a game of value and how to display that. I just thought it was so fascinating, so interesting. So I'll keep you guys updated on how it goes. I should be able to like launch this thing like next week. And I just think it's super interesting, the world of dating, because it's kind of like similar to business. And we live in this crazy world now where like there's social media and you have access to so many people and females. And, you know, if I'm going to get a girlfriend and want to be in a relationship, I want to give myself every single option I could possible and be the best version of myself I could be to give myself every option I could. But I'll leave it off with that. That's why my face is shaved, so feel free to leave a comment if you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm funny, if you think I'm weird, or you agree with what I just said. But if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment below. I try to answer these YouTube comments in these podcasts, you know, with this iPad, so I can display exactly my answers and give you guys a nice visual. But like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.